Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Miss Tya Adhitama.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me? That's my first check. Can everyone hear me? Good, all right. I'm going to ask everybody to come forward because you know how you're late and then you don't want to come in because you don't want to sit at the very front table. So I'm going to ask everybody to move forward one table, please, so that the latecomers can actually fill in the blank in the back. Very good, very good. Thank you there, Pedram. Can I have this table move forward, please? This table move forward. Don't be shy, don't be shy. Because I'm actually going to ask all the people in the back to do the work, so you guys are safe. You guys are safe. Okay? No, I'm going to ask questions to the people in the back. Yeah, so it's best that people move forward. Yeah, everybody move forward, fill in blanks, okay? I'm going to go up on the stage just because I'm short, and if I don't, you won't be able to see me, okay? So I want to thank SymEx for inviting me back. Last year I was a speaker for a breakout. I've been graduated to Keynote. I want to ask everyone now, how was your lunch? Fine, good? Everybody had a good lunch? I can't hear you. Yeah. And this is the danger of always being scheduled right after lunch. That happened last year, it happened again this year. So what I'd like you all to do is, because we had a fabulous lunch, can you all please stand up first? Everybody stand up. Everybody stand up in the back, stand up. Okay? I want you to put your hands like this. All right? No, Khalid, not praying like this. Okay. Now I want to bring your hands together rigorously. Yeah. Okay. So we are thanking the committee for a job well done. Wonderful. Yay. Okay. So if nothing else happens after this, if you do not like my speech, I have at least gotten a standing ovation. And you know how you eat and then your blood rushes to your stomach and then you get really sleepy, especially after lunch? And plus I have 3 videos that I'm going to share with you. It is not meant for you to fall asleep, okay? So what we just did is actually get the blood pumping to the heart and to the arms, so you should not be sleepy, okay? So thank you very much. Another round of applause, and you may sit down. Thank you. Okay, so last year, I spoke about communication. This year, they asked me to talk about business transformation. Now, that just happens to be about just the content of a book that I wrote last year, and it will be published early February. So everybody here is invited to the book launching February 2018. Okay? And if you want a physical invitation, I think we have handouts on the table. Yeah, just email and let us know, so we will let you know the final date. We're scheduled for February 10th, but I hope to see everybody there. Now let me tell you a little bit about why I wrote the book, okay? And as I tell you why I wrote the book, I would like you to also write down. I'm going to tell you about 3 things that happened to me in 2015. Right? As I do that, I want you to write down how you think I felt in my 2015. Okay, so either on the sheet of paper that we have in front of you or any blank piece of paper. I want you to write down how I felt in 2015. All right? First story. My mother was the bedrock of our family. She modeled strength. She modeled intelligence, she modeled perseverance, and not only to the family, but also to others. She was a mentor for everyone in journalism and television. At the age of 80, plus 3 days, my mother passed away. I'm a single mother of 3. I have an additional 2 foster children. So it was my responsibility to not only take care of the children, I had to manage my professional schedule because I was still working full-time. I also had to make sure that my father was okay. This was all in the midst of traveling back and forth to Singapore to be with my mother. Write how you think I felt at that time. Just 3 words, very simple words. How do you think I felt at the time? Okay? 3 words, very simple words. Second story. We were building a multi-million-dollar campus in Alam Sutra. We had been there probably for 2 years. Now, I wasn't constructing the building, and we probably didn't have experienced project managers like yourselves, all right? But it was 78% finished. I had children who had scheduled and who had enrolled up until grade 3. 3 months before we were actually ready to open the doors to our new school, to the school year in July, the contractors found a huge crack in the middle of the ground floor. It endangered the lives of the workers, it endangers the possible lives of our students, so we decided that we would stop construction. It took us a year to try and get things sorted out, and it never did. Mind you, it's a multi-million-dollar project. Apparently what happened, they started handing out to contractors, to smaller contractors. Didn't work out. In 2 weeks, we had a group of orang from Madura. It was cleared. Back to nothing. This was something that we had really hoped would be, because we were going to be a different kind of school for children. We were going to focus on leadership, character building, with a heavy dose of academics in the midst. Okay? Then we had to just tear everything down. Parents were crying. Teachers were crying, because we had to find jobs for them, right? We were crying, the foundation was crying. Our students were disappointed. How do you think I felt? 3 words, how do you think I felt? Okay? So my mom passes away, the building that we're constructing, gets demolished, right? And I turned 55, right? So I was offered retirement, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take retirement, and I'm going to start something new. So with this, I want to introduce my partner, business partner, Siti. If you'll stand up, please. So this is Siti Shahwali. If anybody is in the oil and gas industry, Siti was a finance director in one of the big oil companies, highest paid finance director, woman kind of thing, right? So she was very busy. For the past probably 8 years now, you've decided to switch tracks, and now she's actually a full-time consultant for a not-for-profit in Bali. Okay? It's called Coral Triangle Center. And so now she's very happy living in Bali, helping people with a not-for-profit. But for me, what was I going to do? I had worked for 35 years by that point, right? What was I going to do? I decided that, okay, I needed to do something. But I thought that I would enjoy retirement first. That lasted 2 weeks. Retirement and I don't go together. So now I call it my sabbatical year, where I just took off a year, wrote a book, this book, right? And this is why I'm happy to share that with you today. So the point is, mom passes away, building collapse, I retire. How do you think I felt? 3 words. Write it down, jot it down. Okay? Now, I just want you to shout out some of the words, and I'm going to use this nifty, very sophisticated flip chart, hoping that you will see it on your handphones. Have you guys signed in to the, how do we do that? Can you do that? No. Because you might not be able to see it in the back. Okay, so while they're doing that, how do you think I felt? Just shout it out. Down, okay. I felt down, sad. I'm sorry. Exhausted. I did feel exhausted. Very good. Exhausted, devastated, What else? How else did I feel? Overwhelmed. What else? How else? Chaos. Depressed, anxious. Any more? These are really good words, and all of them are true. Anything else? Good. Okay, thank you. So, I was down, I was sad, I was exhausted, I was devastated, I was overwhelmed, I was chaotic, I was depressed, I was anxious. That was my 2015. I thought I was doing okay. If you saw me, if you didn't know me and you saw me, you would think I was doing okay because I held it all in, right? I had to be tough in front of my children. I had to be okay in front of my father. I didn't want him to go have a heart attack, right? I had to be professional at the office. So even though I did feel this way, and these are all the feeling words that you found for me, and they were all true, it didn't show, okay? So then I had a choice. If I wanted to see everything as, is it death and disaster and unemployment, or did I want to see it as everlasting life, change, and new opportunities? But I think it would be fair to say that my life was going through turmoil. And the definition of turmoil is a state of great disturbance, confusion, and word of the day is uncertainty, right? Do you sometimes feel this way when you're leading a project at the office? Okay, if you, so you're starting to fall asleep on me. If you feel this way sometimes when you're leading a project at the office, raise your hand. Okay, why? Why is that way? It's because of the confusion. You are project management professionals, correct? The sheer definition of what you do is introduce change into business as usual. Is that right? Here is the issue. Who likes change? Raise your hand. Okay, so I see around 25 hands go up in a room of 135 people. Okay, so most of us are uncomfortable with change. Most of us, when we get change, we feel turmoil, right? And it could be internal change, it could be external change, right? But this is how we feel. We feel confused, we feel uncertain, we feel there's disturbance. But what if we looked at things a different way? What if we saw it as transformation? What if you saw your projects as a change that's happening, but it's actually for us to be improved, for us to get better? How many of you would like a change like that? Raise your hands. How many of you would like a change that would be transformative? Is that all? Really? Okay, I think they're falling asleep in the back. Oh, okay, okay. See, a lot more hands. So it's actually a paradigm, it's a mindset that you need to, and not only you, your team members, correct? So as leaders, your responsibility is to be that agent of change, right? Introduce the small things in your project, in your organization, that will have that big impact, that will get you through the business transformation. You have a choice, right? You're all professionals. If you've worked for less than 10 years, raise your hand. Less than 10 years. If you have worked for less than 10 years, raise your hands. Okay, so we're looking at the millennials in the group, right? Okay, and there's just very few of us. If you've worked between 10 to 25 years, raise your hand. Right. Oh, Pedro, come on, be serious. If you've worked more than 25 years, raise your hand. Yeah, we can see with the hair, woohoo, okay, right? so yes, the seniors. Let's give a round of applause for the seniors. All right, woohoo! Right. We are the survivors, right? But that's my point. Whether you've worked for less than 10 years, between 10 to 25, more than 25, there will always be something happening. There will always be change. And it is our responsibility and our choice to see it as turmoil or transformation. Correct? Okay. Now, I would like to introduce you to a team of mountain climbers. Who here has climbed a mountain? Okay. I have not. And based on this video, it looks very difficult. Is it difficult? Yes, okay, thank you. It looks very difficult in this video. And there's something even more unique about this team, right? Oh, connecting? Right, okay. There's something even more unique about this team. Eric, the main climber, is blind. He and his team want to climb Mount Everest. Has anybody here who are mountain climbers climbed Mount Everest? Going to. This is a preview, trailer of what you will be facing, okay? So I want you to do me a favor. Yeah, I want you to see. There's going to be in the video. It's a 14-minute video, so we're just going to watch half of it. And our videos are courtesy of my colleague Ludo. I'd like to introduce you, please. Ludo is my colleague at Franklin Covey, Dunamis. Yeah. He is head of practice. He used to work at CPN and Astra. I wanted to use the video, but because of copyright, I had to bring Ludo with me, right? So he's the copyright defender and holder. Okay, so he's going to show us half of the video, but I'm going to introduce you to the characters that are in the video, all right? There's going to be the team leader, PV. There's going to be the blind climber. His name is Eric. Now, Eric has a guide buddy whose name is also Eric, okay? So Eric with a K and Eric with a C. And then there's going to be the base camp manager called Kevin. All right. I want you to watch the video. We're probably going to show 8 minutes of it. Okay, 8 minutes of it. I want you to write down what uncertainties do they face. Okay, what uncertainties do they face? And then I want you to identify with one of the characters. Which character do you identify with the most? Okay, you got that? So list what their uncertainties are, and then which character do you relate to the most. Okay, so I'm going to press this, and you should, okay. Oh, tulisnya. Ini kebaca. Oke, ini kebaca. Oh, okay. Okay, so anyway, we had those words, right? Okay, so I'm going to, because apparently even my sleeves can't touch it, right? This is technology for you. Okay, so I'm going to erase, and then later you're going to yell out words about the uncertainties. Ready? Mas Ludo, silakan.
We set up a nightly tent meeting because it was a very effective way to get a lot of communication across.
It's gonna be a heavy pack. So hey, guys, you can't bring your toothbrushes, you can't bring all that fancy stuff. There's no room for it, there's no weight for it.
I'm bringing my toothbrush.
Crazy, can I borrow your toothbrush?
The tent meetings seemed incredibly important. The ability to have an open forum to communicate, to talk about things, it gets you thinking.
So if I do have to turn back, I'm just curious. I mean, what's the plan?
This is Eric.
I'll feel totally
the
bad
blind
because I'll
climber.
ruin probably a someone or one or two person summit day.
This whole thing's about you.
This whole thing's about you, man.
Hopefully everybody realizes that we've got a prerogative here, and that's to get Eric to the top.
Well, if Eric can't make it to the top, I'm definitely going to go, no matter what.
I started working with Eric as his guide and leading him, but really it was his vision that was kind of leading to both of us.
In having a team like this, it's definitely made up of individuals that have certain strengths.
Really the cohesive element for this team was definitely that we all had a common goal.
The strength of the team as a whole compensated for a lot of personal weaknesses on people's parts. And so the fact that we had so many people together and they were all with common purpose, and they all worked together and they got along well, I think it really made for an incredible expedition.
Above Camp 3, you enter what's called the death zone. It's where your body has stopped acclimatizing. You're not really able to assimilate nutrition. You're like a ticking clock. I mean, you're starting to die up here. You got to get to the summit now as quickly as you can.
When I got up to Camp 4, our tent was destroyed. There was no camp set up. There was nothing there. So we realized that we were going to have to stay there for sure that night and maybe sacrifice our summit bid.
I'm nervous.
What are you nervous about?
No reason. No reason. It's not like we're going to be climbing to the top of the world.
Our plan is to leave Camp 4 around 8:30 p.m. and climb all through the night. If things work out, we hope to make summit by late morning.
It's dark. For the first time, we're kind of on Eric's turf.
Leaving on summit day, we got up, we're ready to go, everybody's feeling good, and I felt cold. The higher I got, the sicker I got, and it dawned on me that I had malaria.
TV is coming down. He's feeling really bad. He's moving very slowly. He's around the bulge. He's not too far out, I don't think, but he might need some help.
The goal of the expedition was not to have me summit. It was absolutely the most difficult decision I've ever made in my life. I had spent 2 years of my life working on this expedition, planning on this expedition, dreaming about standing with Eric at the summit.
I think him putting so much of himself into this expedition is probably what cost him the summit in the end, but that's, you know, he's a great leader, and any leader knows when to step back.
It was at the balcony halfway to the summit when this storm came in really fast from the south.
We're still waiting for the weather, but weather is very bad.
All my planning, the one thing I forgot was to appoint an assistant team leader.
We were leaderless. Some of us wanted to go forward, some of us wanted to turn back. We were in a crisis.
We definitely had a low point. You can't help but get bummed out because you feel like everything you've been working for might not come to pass.
It's really amazing that when you really need it, leadership seems to spring from the most unexpected places. Because Kevin, our base camp manager, you know, his job was to set up tents and organize gear and to do less glamorous things like clean the bathroom tents. He had taken it upon himself to understand these very complex weather patterns and charts and graphs that he was seeing over the internet.
Mike, I know you guys are in a storm right now. It's snowing, it's very windy, but from down here it is clearing up. There's stars all around us, even common reports from Camp 2 that it's clearing up. Just push forward, you guys are going to do great. You'll have good weather within the hour, over.
It certainly helps to hear them say, hey, it's getting better, hang in there.
We're up on the balcony. Snowing sideways right now, but I see a star. It looks like it's clearing.
As we're moving up about 28,000 feet, Brad yells down, well, you know, the ropes are buried.
And the only way to get them out is to dig it out and then you pull it. It sounds like an easy thing, but when it's crusted over and you're only breathing a third as much oxygen, you know, it's a pretty tough job. Those guys probably really didn't need those fixed lines. They probably could have walked right past them and kept going, but they knew the rest of us needed them. And they knew Eric needed them.
I remember processing that, sitting at that one spot and thinking very clearly, if I do this, I'm not going to be able to go to the top. I remember that last tug of the rope, pulling it, and poof, I saw it shoot up to the south summit, and I remember just being flooded with joy.
I was so deflated because I knew that he had just sacrificed his own attempt for me.
He's like, you know, I got to go though, right? I said, I want you to, that's why I did this.
But I didn't want it to be for nothing, you know, so I gave him a hug.
I watched him hop off the back of the south summit, And I thought to myself, there is no way I'm gonna let that blind guy go stand on top of the world and have to hear about it the rest of my life. So I hopped right down behind him.
There's a 12,000-foot drop on this side, a 9,000-foot drop on the other side. At that point, I don't think it really matters which side you fall off of. Sometimes you have to rise to the occasion right now. You gotta be good and execute right now, every step of the way.
Around the top. There's the moon.
Yay! I can't
believe it.
Good job! You did it, man. We're on top of the world. We are on top of the world.
When I heard he made it, and then I heard like everybody made it on the team, I was thinking, man, I could never have hoped for better success than that.
We did something that's extraordinary, and we all did it. And that's even cooler than if I went over and just did it on my own.
Everyone on our team felt that they had the power to get us to the summit or to lose it for us. They had that power, and everyone, whether they actually physically stood on the summit or not, they, in 1,000 ways, stepped up, and their strengths enabled us to stand on top.
By picking a good team, by picking members we knew would work, by expecting certain things out of people, and by planning in advance, the success of the expedition was decided way in advance in Nepal.
I don't think I'm very different from anyone else. I think everyone has a yearning for greatness inside them. That ability to reach out into uncertainty, in a sense, I guess, to climb blind.
Awesome, right? Very awesome. Okay, so what uncertainties did they face? Weather. Okay. So weather. What else? Oxygen, or lack thereof. Yeah. Health. What else? What uncertainties? I'm sorry? Leadership. Yeah, the team leader. Yeah, leadership. So all of these uncertainties, right? Which character did you relate to the most? PV, the team leader? Or Eric, the climber? Or Eric, the guide, the climbing buddy? Or Kevin at the base camp? Kevin. Who related most to Kevin? Okay. So Kevin's job is to pitch tents, clean bathrooms, and make sure that everything is ready for when they get to the camps, right? So we all related most to him because we're always, this is a project, right? Maybe some of us are project leaders, but as a project, we're a team member, right? And sometimes we get the, excuse my language, the shitty part of cleaning the bathrooms, right? But what happened to Kevin? He stepped up to the plate, right? When the team was devastated, when the team was sad, when they were exhausted, all the words you used to describe my 2015, they felt all of that. But Kevin stepped up to the plate and he said, hey guys, from what it looks like down here in an hour, you'll be good. You'll have passed the worst, okay? That's transformative. He was that agent of change for the team. You agree? Okay. I want to take this now to an organizational context. So you know my personal story, now you know Eric's personal story. That's more of a team dynamics, project. They prepared 2 years. You're going to have to prepare 2 years, you know, before you leave for Mount Everest. Okay, so now let's take that to an organizational concept. When I wrote my book, Navigating Turmoil, it was based on real life experiences in working for many organizations in finance, in manufacturing, right? Education. What I'd like to share with you today is how this model works for a national company, for a multinational company, and for the not-profit. Okay? And so this actually applies as a whole in many types of different organizations, many different sizes, different industries. So I'm going to share 3 personal stories of companies that I have worked with. And like yourselves, I was that agent of change. Was it easy? No. Did it reap results if I was committed to it? Yes. Okay? Let's start from the top. Govern. Don't kid yourself. The success of your company starts from the top. What do we mean by that? I was the disruptor. We were the disruptor. So this is a case about Bank Danamon when I joined in 2003. Most of the commercial banks in Indonesia were focusing on people like yourselves, people who could have a credit card, right? What we did, and there was only one other bank doing that in Indonesia, which is BRI, was try to access microfinancing, provide banking services to those that had no access to it in the past. So we established 700 branches in the traditional wet markets. When I was recruited by the CEO in 2003, he told me, we have 5,000 employees, but we only generate business that would be for only 2,000 to 3,000 employees. So I said, so what are you going to do? Do you remember the cases that Mas Indrawan shared with us, the big iconic companies, Harley Davidson, Lego, and what was the other one, IBM? When they faced a situation, what did they do? First thing they did was fire people. So that was on my mind when I talked to my CEO, and I'm like, Francis, what are we going to do? 5,000 employees, what do you think? Are you going to start firing people? He said, no, Tya. We are going to grow the business so that we can provide work for 5,000 people. So we started on a commitment to go into the microfinancing business, right? By 2006, Danamon was best emerging market bank in Indonesia. We were best trade finance bank in Indonesia, best bank in Indonesia, and we had 31,227 employees. And that's only in what, 3 years, right? We became the 2nd largest employer in the financial sector in Indonesia. So what is it that we did? We led, right? We had to be the disruptor. Just like Uber is now, the big taxi company with no fleet, just like Airbnb is now, the big hotel chain with no property, right? That's what we were at the time. We were the disruptor. We looked at what was it that the customers needed, right? This is what Michael was talking about in our first session, right? I remember what you said there, Michael, right? Be passionate about what you're doing, right? You have to be who you are, and what you do has to be the same. That was us. We were all about microfinancing. We were all about helping those traders in the wet traditional markets provide access and funding to them so that they can grow their business. We committed ourselves, and we acted with integrity, and we modeled it throughout the whole organization. Okay? So this is the first. So as leaders, I felt, and again, I made this model not theoretically and then went out to prove it. I developed the model based on experience. All right? So it's proven, it's tested, and you can go out there and research. I did, right? There are people who recommend 15 benchmarks or 10 practices. Just do these 3. Just do these 3 as a leader, and you will see the difference that happens in your company. Okay, next, strategize. Know where you want to go and how to get there. Now that seems simple, but sometimes, as Bahari was saying, sometimes you're not doing the right thing, right? Or you're doing the wrong thing in the right way. That's what he said in his session earlier, right? Know where you want to go and how to get there. The example I want to share with you now is about Panasonic Go Bell. Does anybody, who knows about Panasonic Go Bell? Have you heard the name before? Panasonic Go Bell, okay, National Go Bell. Maybe you have a fan at home or a microwave or an iron or something like that of the brand, okay? So the company was established in 1967 by 2 founders, which was Konosuke Matsushita himself, who actually established national company in Japan, and Muhammad Tayyip Gobel, in Indonesia. What was the common ground for these two gentlemen? Both truly believed that the reason for business is to make people's lives better. It wasn't about just the money. It was to make people's lives better. And so they agreed that in 1967 they would set up a joint venture. By 1988, Panasonic Gobel had the majority, which was a 22% market share in Indonesia, and they had started exporting to 57 different countries. Right? 1998, I joined. Only woman on the board. Right? This is a very Japanese, male-oriented company. So when I had to go and travel to Japan, they're thinking I'm the coffee lady, right? So I'm walking, and I'm secondhand in command to the owner, Rahmat Gobel, right? So he would be walking, I would be a few steps behind him, and so they're wondering, why did he bring the coffee lady to Japan? They were so offended when we started negotiations because the right-hand person, the second most important person, always sits to the right of the president director, right? So there I was at the negotiation table. I was sitting to the right of Rahmat Gobel. Every Japanese gentleman on the opposite negotiating team was offended, okay? So they're thinking, okay, why is she here? And then we had, and so we had this personal break where you go to the bathroom or you get to have a cigarette and everything like that. You could see just as this door started to close, you could see that they were huddled, and you could see there was one person who had the responsibility to find out who I was. All right. So he comes in and he goes, Tya-san, English, very good. I said, thank you very much. And I knew he only had that 1 minute before we all came back. So I wanted to make this guy's job easy. I said, yeah, there was only English because I grew up in the United States. I came back to Indonesia when I was 14, but then I went back again for my graduate studies, and I went to Darden Business School. Right. So he's getting all this information. Yeah, and so, Rahmat Gobel asked me to join as director. Directress ne. So not coffee lady, right? He then scurries away, lets his group of people huddle. No. Everybody comes back. We're all sitting down. I again am to the right of Pak Rahmat, but ever so slightly, you could see the body language. All the chairs that had initially been targeted to Pak Rahmat, they started shifting it towards me. Why? Because I was the one, and at that time there weren't any handphones or any fancy, so they had that Nokia that's like this big, right? I don't know if anybody here remembers that. So I would type all the answers that he would have to say, and he would say it in Indonesian, and then I would translate it in English. But they knew who the agent of change was. Okay. So it took us 5 years to renegotiate the joint venture agreement with 8 different joint ventures. One after another, and then there was the final 8, the 8th one. So it would always be this team of 4 from Indonesia, but they always had a fresh team from each of the joint ventures. They were young. They were smart. A lot of them had MBAs from the US, okay? English, impeccable. So as we're negotiating the 8th joint venture, it became very heated, to a point that one of the Japanese team members started hitting the table. And I'm like, whoa, dude, chill, right? So I said, okay, you know what? Let's break for lunch. And I asked my Indonesian colleagues to go have lunch on their own, and I would have lunch bento with the Japanese team. You could tell they were uncomfortable. They weren't used to having to sit with a woman in the meeting room, and I was older than they were, right? So I asked them, I wanted to make them feel comfortable. So we just started talking small talk. How long have you been with the company? What were your experiences? That sort of thing. And then I asked him, so how much do you know about the joint venture between Matsushita-san and Gobel-san? Matsushita-san, we know. Gobel-san, just a little bit. I said, okay. So I decided to tell them the story. Okay? I decided to tell them about the shared vision that the two gentlemen had. And I said, you know what? The way things are going, we are ready to walk away The Indonesian team is ready to walk away. I guarantee you, if things continue on the way they were going before lunch, we will walk away. My only question is that the legacy that you want? So then they're like, oh, much like yourself, they were very silent. You could tell they came into the negotiations with a win-lose attitude, right? That was their mindset. And I said, it is up to you. I'm going to call in my Indonesian colleagues so that we can continue. But I just want to let you know, if it continues the way it was, I'm sorry we're going to have to walk away from these discussions. What ended up happening is what gets measured gets done, okay? What ended up happening is they wanted to ensure the legacy. They changed their mindset and came into the next round of negotiations with a win-win mentality. We ended up extending the joint ventureship, and not only extending it, it was indefinite. Okay, so there was no time limit to it. So that's the second example about how strategizing is important in an organization. And the last one is challenge. Ask the right questions and you may get the truth. Now for this last one, I want to share an example of a not-for-profit. Has everyone, or who has heard about Butet Manurung? Raise your hand. Oh, good, yay. I'm very proud to see that because, 15 years ago, I first met Butet. And it was she and a group of, it was 10 of them. They just graduated from university, very passionate on making a difference in the world. They had no money, right? They would go out to all these areas in Indonesia with their own pocket money. They would not necessarily come back if they didn't have the money. So I was still with Bank Danamon at the time, and they came to me and they said, we're scared of management. We don't know what it is, we don't know what it means, we don't know how that affects us. And I said, okay, here's the deal. What is it that you do? Okay. What they do is actually they volunteer and they go live in remote indigenous communities and help to improve literacy for children and adults with the intention and the end in mind so that these people have access to knowledge so that they can make informed decisions for their life and betterment. Okay. So we discussed it. In the process of the 15 years that I first met them, Butet has become Man and Biosphere Award, was rewarded Man and Biosphere Award by UNESCO in 2001, Hero of Asia, Time Magazine 2003, Young Global Leader, World Economic Forum in 2009. They wrote a book about her in 2012 called The Jungle Book. They then made a movie about the book, Sekolah Rimba, and the movie was released in 2014. To say the least, I am extremely proud that they have been able to reach out to many, many areas in Indonesia and touch the lives of 10,000 people. Okay, and Mas Yudo has a small clip. For those of you who don't know who Butet is, this is just a small clip from the movie, right? But it explains about, just shows a little bit about the things that they have to do when they're volunteering out in the indigenous communities.
Miles Films mempersembahkan sebuah film terbaru dari sutradara Riri Riza. Diangkat dari buku Sekolah Rimba, serta pengalaman Butet Manurung di hutan Bukit 12 Jambi.
Kelompok Tumenggung Belaman Badai sudah berulang kali berpindah karena kepentingan pemilik kelapa sawit. Bungo, ayo belajar. Bungo menunjukkan kepada kita untuk apa kita berada di sini.
Jadi ini hanya urusan seorang anak bernama Bungo.
Kemana ibu guru Butet?
These are actual children from that area.
Sekolah Rimba dibintangi oleh Prisiana Sution sebagai Butet Manurung serta anak-anak rimba dari hutan Bukit 12 Jambi. Mulai 21 November 2013 hanya di bioskop.
So I have been in touch with them over the past 15 years informally, But a few months ago, Indit and Butet called and said, "Mbak, we need you to get angry with us again." And I'm like, okay, why don't you come over to the house? So their group came back to the house, came over to the house. And I named this the challenger because my role then as agent of change was to challenge them, okay? And this is important. If you have a pen, I suggest that you write these 5 questions down. These are not my 5 questions. It was developed by Professor James Ryan from Harvard and my alma mater, UVA, University of Virginia. And he says it's important for leaders to ask the right questions. First, wait, what? To build an understanding of what the situation is. Second question, I wonder why, or I wonder if. What does that do? It creates creativity. Third question, couldn't we at least, this establishes common ground. Fourth question, how can I help? I want to empower them. I don't want to take it away from them, right? I want to give it to them, leave it in their control, leave it in their area of influence and control. But how is it that I can empower them? What can I do to help? And the fourth is, what truly matters? So here, as the challenger, I was there to provide solutions, right? Forward-looking solutions, not rehash the past. Have them, help them think into the future. What is it they want to be? What kind of role do they want to play? What kind of numbers, and that's what we do. Monitor. We looked at the data. Apparently, one of the activities that they are currently doing is using a lot of their time and energy and not making an impact. So they decided, as they're approaching their 15th anniversary, they want to establish the Sekolah Institute. They want to do away with some of their programs that apparently were taking a lot of their time and energy but was not making an impact. And then focusing, again, going back to what the customers really need, right? Going back to their roots and identifying what is it that we're about? What is it that we want to accomplish? And then at the end, it was balance. Identifying a balance of what it is that they want, what is it the community, what is it that we can commit to, okay? So here we have 30 minutes for Q&A and discussion, but we have one last gift for you as well, and that's another video. So before that, I would like to open it to question and answer. Again, you can do this in one whole organization. Just remember, as leaders, you are agents of change, right? You need to govern. You need to strategize. You also need to challenge. A lot of the failures of our organization is because our leaders don't challenge us enough. They don't ask the right questions. Okay, any questions? I guess I explained it so well that no one has any questions. Hmm? Yes, yes, please.
Sorry for coming late.
No, that's okay. I'm glad you made it, Amber.
I made it back. Why do you think that there is a problem with challenging authority, with challenging status quo? Why do you think that's the case? I don't know, it's an Asian culture, or is it something that I'm not aware of? And what do you think, some solutions to that?
Okay. Yes, I think it's very Asian. When I did my MBA in the US, it was 100% case study method, right? English is not a problem for me, as you can tell, right? But at the first quarter of my MBA program, I was called into the international office, and they said, Tia, you've got to step up your participation in class. If not, you're not going to make it through the program. And I went to Darden Business School. And I said, okay. Now, my first degree is in communication, right? So I'm like, I should not have a problem. But when you're a class of 60 people, and the minute you get called on, yes, Ms. Adhitama, well, I believe, and my style of communication at the time was very Asian. I would explain things and then come to a conclusion. Well, as I'm starting to explain things, 10 hands go up. Most of them were for the Navy Academy, business people. I disagree. And I'm like, dude, seriously, I haven't even said anything yet, right? So it is very different in terms of the way people present ideas, one. Two, you don't want to be rocking the boat. In Asia, you don't want to be rocking the boat. And this is why I say it's important that we challenge, But the questions that I showed you earlier is a very effective way of doing that without others feeling challenged. So it's how you ask the questions. It's how you challenge. But I still feel, and this is based on all my experience being in a Japanese company, a Indonesian family business, right, in education, and all the banking, I still feel it's important that people ask the difficult and hard questions in a way that isn't intimidating, but actually gets people to be more creative. And this is, I mean, especially these years, you know, now that we're moving into an era where the young people have access to all this information, us oldies, we don't have all the answers, right? So it's stupid of us to think that we do. So it's the way that we ask, you know, the whole coaching and mentoring and exploring and delving into it, I think is the way that it should be done, and it can be done effectively. I've done it effectively. I practice what I preach, yeah. Does that answer your question? Good, thank you. Thank you for the question. Oh, somebody should get a coupon, right? Are we still doing the coupon thing? Okay, you get a coupon. Okay, okay. Next question. Yes, yeah. The mic, does somebody have a mic for Asha?
Ibu Tia.
Oh, hi, okay.
Yes.
I'll get to you later. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So in the organization that I work with, we are doing kind of the transformation program.
Okay.
But seems from me as the team members,
yeah.
I think we can do more than that one.
You can, I'm sorry, you can do?
I think we can do more.
You can do more, okay, yeah.
Than what we did at this moment.
Okay.
So I read this one about the govern.
Yes.
Don't get yourself, the success come from the top.
Yes.
Okay. As I'm not in the top yet, so what can I do? Because I have the idea, I think we can do more than this one if we want to transform.
Yeah.
But as the agent of change, I think I already did my role by persuade the top management, etc. But seems that I need more suggestion from you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, great question. And maybe try these 5 questions because it works upwards as well as downwards as well. So, okay, so you can pretend to not understand the strategy of what they're trying to do and actually go to them and say, I wonder if, or I wonder why, right? So use these questions. I am new in my organization. I've been working with Franklin Covey Dunamis for the past 10 years. The school that I was leading became the first international lighthouse school, using the 7 habits and implementing that into the school system. Then I retired. Well, I call it a sabbatical now because it was only a year. And then now I'm working with them full time. So I bring a lot of resource and experience to the table joining Dunamis. At the same time, I know there are people there who've been working on this for the past 10 years. I don't want to be stepping on anybody's toes. I don't want to be alienating the team. So my approach is I just ask a lot of questions. Because by asking a lot of questions, you put someone in a position of power because they have the information, but you are also opening yourself up to learning. And because you're opening yourself up to learning, so is everybody else. Now, I'm not going to say it's easy. It is going to be very challenging, especially when the people on the top don't get it, right? But that's where a lot of the businesses fail. It's because it's not clear. Where are we going? What are we doing? But you can be that agent of change, right? And just start asking questions. Jangan sampai nyebelin, of course, right? Just ask the right questions to the right people so it gets people thinking about it, right? And if you're still having problems, WhatsApp me, and then we can have a conversation and I'll coach you through it, okay? All right, good. Thank you for the question. I think we have time for some more questions. I'm gonna stand up here because I'm short, and I just want to make sure that people see me. Yes, you had a question, Shah.
Yeah, okay. You're talking about change, being a change agent, right?
Yeah.
I was recently assigned, not to say recently, I was about a year ago, to also head the change management unit, which I find it very challenging because it's not my forte.
Okay.
Project management is fine, change management, contract management is something new, but it has to be done.
Right.
So my biggest challenge was, I think I can relate with your experience because I was new, I was an outsider.
Yeah.
I was taken outside to change basically the PMO.
Right.
So they parked the change management team under my team.
Okay.
And the team lead is a, no offense for old timers, yeah, my team lead is, no, seriously, he is a 50-year-old guy. So he has that resistance towards me, saying that, asking the management, why should I report to Shah, who is so much younger and a woman? Sorry again. So it took me about a year, and I believe now also is still a problem to change his mindset towards making the change management team a strong team, like my project management team. So do you have any suggestions that you can help me in that section?
Okay. I had the honor of partnering up with Shah in our previous session. And you know the circle that I made, the 8-pie circle? That's actually a very useful tool. And I'll show it to you on this slide, on this flip chart up here. So all I did in our session, when we had our session earlier this morning, was I made a 8-piece pie, and she was sharing her experience and what she wants to be doing in the future. And I asked her to choose one action. And I said, okay, so as she was talking, I started writing what you said into the pie. And it only took us, I think we had 4 minutes to do it. How did you feel at the end of that, Shah? You felt more focused, okay. So by using this, so go to your senior leader and ask him, say, I'm having trouble understanding what we should do next with the team, right? What are your ideas so that we can be more effective in doing this? So you are immediately putting this person in a power of information position, right? He will be, everybody likes to talk, especially about themselves. No, let's be, right, especially about themselves. So you ask him to share his experiences and his successes, and you, as he does that, you write it down, because he knows you're taking it seriously. And just by I've just met you, but by your demeanor, I can see that that is something that's not going to be difficult for you to do, because listening, it's the exercise of listening and listening well to really capture what this person is trying to say. Yeah? Does that answer your question? Yeah? Okay. So again, you have my number. WhatsApp me and let's keep communicating on that. Okay. Any other questions? Going once, going twice. Yes, I'm wrong. Okay.
For Indonesia, right? Many times companies would call you to make a recommendation, to do a study, to do a roadmap. Perfect, great, can do all that stuff. Assume that this is done and everything. Implementing it is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
I made 30 recommendations to a company here, big company. They only took 2, and I consider that to be successful.
Okay.
Because the 2 were major.
Right.
But they were like a lot more.
Sure.
What's in your thought is the hurdle, or what do you think, that?
My guesstimate at this point is the real root problem that they were dealing with were actually the solutions that they ended up executing. They may have told you about all these other things, so you went and did a whole shebang of 30 recommendations, when the root cause of everything was actually the 2 solutions that you helped solve. So it's very difficult, yet very important to thoroughly explore, what the root causes are. Because if you start solving the symptoms, again, you're not solving the root problem. And that's, I will tell you, that is very difficult to do, because they're not necessarily going to be very open in those initial meetings, right? So what I've done is become very close and friendly with maybe some of the non-formal influencers, and then get their information and take them out to lunch and have this sort of, because basically we want them to succeed. We're not there to have, we want them to succeed. You are project professionals, right? You want the projects to succeed. So the issue is, what are the core issues that we need to address? and exploring that and spending time up front. So you're doing the right things, as Pak Hari would say, doing the right things from the beginning. Hopefully that helps. Good. Okay, anything else? No? Okay. Then I am going to share with you this. It's a gift from Franklin Covey. We're going to share with you a video, and it's called the Trim Tab. And it's about everyday moments of choice. Dr. Covey says small changes can have big impact. Every single day, I live by this. I try to go out and save the world. I can't do it all at once because I still have 3 kids that I need to put through school. But I try to do those small things one-on-one with people at the office, with people outside the office, hopefully with you in the future, just those little steps that can make big changes. And as project leaders, that's what you're doing. You are trying to make those small changes that have big impact. Okay, so this video is about Trim Tab. And Mas Ludo, if you would like to share this last video, please.
To change the ship's course, you move a steering wheel that operates a rudder, which then turns the ship. But the rudder itself can be enormous, perhaps even 10 stories tall on some ocean liners. So what moves the rudder? A tiny second rudder attached to the big rudder called a trim tab. Through the marvels of engineering, when the trim tab swings to one side, it creates just enough vacuum that it pulls the big rudder around. The trim tab is tiny compared to the size and weight of the ship, yet it is the trim tab that determines the ship's course. Sometimes it may seem that making changes in our lives or in our jobs is like turning a huge ship. But the principle of the trim tab, that small changes can have a big impact, applies to many areas. I'm reminded of a large metropolitan city that was looking for a big solution to a big problem. New York City was plagued with crime. To solve the problem, city officials thought they had to do something big, something heroic, like tackle inequality or overhaul social services. Instead, they began to think differently. What if they focused on smaller crimes? Crimes that were signaling disorder in the city and inviting more serious crime. So they turned their attention to small violations occurring in the subway system. They invented new ways to quickly clean graffiti off of the subway cars. If a car could not be cleaned before it turned around, it was removed from service. They also found that nearly 170,000 people a day were jumping the gates and not paying fares. By keeping subways clean and cracking down on these small violations, the city reduced felonies on subways by 75%. As they applied the same principle in different areas throughout the city, felonies were cut in half and murders dropped by 2/3. This illustration shows how small things can have a big impact. But the trim tab principle also applies to people, particularly at work. Far too many people are not engaged in their work. They are neither fulfilled nor excited. Most of all, they feel powerless to change anything, and they blame it on the organization or their boss or their lack of authority. In truth, you are the creative force of your own job and life. No matter what role you play, your contribution can make a difference. You can become a trim tab. How? Simply by focusing on what you can do, even if it's outside of your job description, and then make small adjustments and improvements along the way. When Madeline Cartwright became the principal of an inner-city elementary school, she found a desperate situation: a filthy building, a discouraged teaching staff, apathetic parents, and children who were just trying to survive in an unbearable environment. Madeline had many reasons to be discouraged, even to think that change would be impossible. One day, she pulled aside the custodian to talk about the stench that permeated the hallway from the boys' bathroom.
Clean this bathroom, Mrs. Cartwright.
Well, it looks clean.
The smell is coming from the floor. There's 10 years of urine in the concrete. It won't come out.
I'm gonna need a bucket of hot water and some brushes.
Hot water and brushes?
You heard me. Smell anything?
No.
Well, it does come out, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Word spread quickly about the new principal's action that day. Students and faculty alike, even parents were talking. Even out in the community they talked. If she had wanted to send a strong signal that the school was changing, she had found it. She also noticed that day after day some children came to school in the same dirty clothes. She believed that if children felt dirty and uncared for, it would impact their ability to learn. So she organized a fundraiser to purchase a washer and dryer, and the community helped collect spare clothing. If children had dirty clothes, they could change into the extra clothes and go to class. Teachers and other volunteers would wash the clothes, and when the children came back in the afternoon, their own clothes were fresh and folded. She continued to apply the trim tab principle in many ways. Soon everyone was involved and engaged in the new school spirit. A culture of doing what it takes emerged among the faculty and staff. Together they faced head-on and overcame the challenges that were preventing children from learning. They provided food, took care of medical needs, and even challenged the rampant drug dealing in the neighborhood.
What's wrong?
The school became a safe haven for the children. Madeline Cartwright knew the children could learn if their basic needs were met, and they were expected to elevate their minds. The entire community responded. Academic achievement improved measurably, and the school was changed. Remember, the secret to the big is the small. Becoming a trim tab starts with identifying a need and then doing something about it. You don't have to have the most exciting, thrilling, high-profile job in order to be successful or to love your work. Each and every day, you are faced with moments of choice, moments where you can choose to be a trim tab. You can work outside your job description, but within your circle of influence, and have tremendous impact.
How many of you are from Jakarta? Oh, wow, okay, most of you. So there's a school in Menteng, and it used to be called PSKD Mandiri. In 2007, I was invited to either restructure the school or decide whether the school had to be closed down. When I first started at the school, I was only handling the administration side to see if financially we could be sustainable. But one of the first things I did, so this story about Principal Cartwright was my story, okay? I had 6 months to prove to the foundation whether or not this school would be sustainable and if we should keep it open or close it down. One of the first things I did, and I had not seen this video, is I went into the bathrooms. And the bathrooms are one of the first things of society that you can tell how people regard themselves, okay? It was filthy. So I asked the janitor for mops and brushes and detergent, and I rolled up, I was wearing trousers that day, I rolled up my trousers, rolled up my sleeves, and started cleaning the bathroom. And of course here, now all the office boys are, and they're embarrassed. I said, no, that's okay. I just really want to see how clean this can be. That's okay. Go ahead and do, this was during the school days, and go ahead and keep doing what you're doing. I just want to see. It was sparkling. So because I knew that one bathroom could be that way, I knew that the rest of the bathrooms could be that way. So I told the staff that I'm coming in on Saturday to clean the rest of the bathrooms if anybody wants to join me. I didn't think anybody would come. All of the staff came. And all of us cleaned the bathrooms together. Who would think that cleaning bathrooms together would be so motivating? The following Monday, you could feel there was a different energy at the school. Because the teachers and staff were happier, the children were happier. Because the children were happier, the parents were happier. Within 6 months, our enrollment increased by 17%, right? And it continued to increase. I was able to cut the deficit of the school by half every single year after that. We became the first international lighthouse school in the world where we implemented the 7 habits from kindergarten all the way to high school. That had never been done before. So cleaning the bathroom, that was my choice. That was my trim tab action. And look where it led to, right? And Mike, when you asked us if you were given $1 million, what would you do? And I was sitting right there where you were shot, and I'm thinking, $1 million. So I'm going to send you my bank account number so you can start sending me the $1 million. But Mike, I did want you to know that I would be doing exactly what I'm doing today because I feel blessed, and I hope my talk in some way inspired you and hope that it's useful as you go forward. So thank you very much for having me back. Thank you.
Thank you very much for Ms. Tya Adhitama for wonderful sharing. And for a token of appreciation, we would like to invite to the stage our chapter president of PMI Indonesia Chapter, Ms. Alien Veronica.